After out-muscling the strongman Samson in the previous episode, the human hacking tornado told us that the source of the Agate City anti-alarm clock is coming from Ametrine City. In order to reach it, we will need to go get Surf from Titania and Amaria in order to proceed through Ametrine Mountain. Return to Fiore Mansion. The first person you find is Titania, who says Amaria is out for a walk. She says she will get the Surf HM from her room in the back and leaves you alone. As you wait though, Amaria returns and uses Titania's absence to tell us that she has tried looking into Tidawin. Hopefully that pronunciation is actually right. This has been fruitless for her though. All she has learned that we didn't know already is that Ametrine is completely blocked off now. Wait, that's where we're trying to go. When Amaria was told by the Agate Circus members that Tidawin seems to be close by, she has a harder time shaking the idea that Titania is this Tidawin. She says how Titania can seem evasive, but Amaria knows she can't broach this directly with her in case she is Tidawin. She wishes for a way to find out, only to turn around and see a journal on the table. The handwriting is Titania's, as we come in close to read with Amaria. Hey, don't look at me. At least this is way better than the way this scene used to work, where Titania leaves you here and there is literally no way to advance the story until you read her journal. Amaria is the one to blame this time, not me, but the journal outlines several points that seem to suggest that Amaria's feelings for Titania are not reciprocated. Of course, it wouldn't be a scene if Titania didn't come back at this very moment. She gives us Surf. Whew, okay, time to leave. Are you two reading through my journal? Titania asks with venom, I'm sure. Funny thing, it's actually better to tell the truth for relationship points. It just means you don't lose any. She's obviously pissed about us reading her personal journal, but Amaria presses her on these contents. Titania passes it off as notes for a story, which Amaria seems to not fully buy. This is when Amaria bluntly asks Titania if the name Tidawin has meaning to her. It doesn't, says Titania. Amaria then calls this a lie. Titania is taken aback by this, but then Amaria challenges Titania to say she has always been honest with her. Titania does not. Amaria's fear about the notes are confirmed as she begins to fall apart. Titania tries to stop the conversation, but Amaria does so herself by walking out the door. Titania yells to her to no avail and tells us we're going after her. Leaving the mansion, we are then faced with this scene. Amaria stands at the south end of a sandbar on the cascade, feet away from the crashing waterfall. Titania stands behind her as we watch from the shore. Amaria's faith in Titania is destroyed as she yells at Titania to tell her the truth. Titania is perplexed about what Amaria wants to hear, but the water leader brings up Tidawin again. Titania once again denies knowing what that means, and then Amaria involves me. I know that Titania is in the wrong, don't I? So, without spoiling anything, all I'll say on this choice is that siding with one leader or the other gives that leader relationship points and takes away that many points from the other. Titania continues to poke holes in Amaria's vague accusations until Amaria finally makes it clear that she believes Titania is working for Team Meteor. To this, Titania finally answers, saying that the only thing she has been doing with Meteor is feeding them false information in order to throw them off Amaria's scent. But Amaria changes the issue to why Titania wouldn't be forthright about this if she loved her. The answer, that Amaria wished wasn't, is that Titania doesn't love her. Titania tries to downplay this idea, but she again can't meet Amaria's eyes when told their love for each other is not equal. Titania comes clean that she has kept up the charade out of fear that Amaria would do something terrible to herself. She believed that, given enough time, Amaria's depression would get better, or Titania would not need to lie about her love anymore. Unfortunately, not enough time now. Amaria states she sees the situation for what it is. Amaria was just Titania's prison, and now, Amaria will set her free. Amaria's plunge down the falls leaves Titania with no choice but to follow her. Before doing so, she demands that we figure out how to get them back up the waterfall since she won't be able to. And then, Titania dives. Well, that means we need waterfall. Come on, we only just got Surf. Speaking of surf, let's use it now! So now we come to the second half of the bike and surf music option, and this is far and away the more impactful reason for the option. First, let me identify the surfing music you hear, that being Anastar City from X and Y, remixed by GlitchX City. It's a great piece, definitely fits surfing around with the typical moodiness of Reborn, especially with what you just witnessed. However, there's a bit of a problem, and it's the same problem all Pokemon games have with surf music. When you get in water, the surf music starts, and when you get out, the area music starts over. So if you were to surf here, then get out onto the sandbar the two girls were standing on to pick up these item finder items, then jump back in, the music would rapidly change 3 times. In prior releases of Reborn, all you'd keep hearing is the beginning of tracks when you had to surf. Now, this option lets you turn off the surf music, so no more jarring track changing. Now let's cross to the other side of the roaring river with surf and investigate this new area. Walking west and detecting lots of items on the ground, you come up to more naturally formed Minecraft blocks waiting to be jumped on. From these stairs, go to the right and start jumping on the blocks till you reach this side, where you can walk up to the visible item, that being a Reaper Cloth, in case you want to go from Eviolite Dusclops to a Dusk Noir. Walking up the trail to the west now, you'll spot a clown, standing near a Mega Stone. His sign introduces this stand as the Rainbow Challenge. Wait, isn't that Indra's thing at the circus? Well, this clown will rifle off a spiel that sounds very similar and asks if we will take his Rainbow Challenge but real challenge. When we agree to this most legit of contests, he spins his totally existent wheel of colors and lands on all of them. Thus we battle Bindra. As for all the colors, he's right. This fight starts on Rainbow Field. Very rare sight. However, after losing my Meowstic to his opening Raichu and defeating it with Houndoom, he brings out a Clefable. Once again, I have no fairy checks. Instead, I decide that Rainbow is probably going to help him too much, so I call Vanillix to bring on the hail. The ice pellets erase the colorful field, returning us to Rocky Field. After that, the rest of the fight is pretty uninteresting, though his Magnezone, Lurantis, and Musharna do cause me to lose a couple more Pokemon. With Bindra defeated, we can now have his amazing, spectacular prize of 1 full heal. When he asks why we're glaring at him, and we force our way through both dialogue trees, he then relents, but tells us something we won't like to hear. That white item ball isn't actually an item ball. It's just a floor mat that looks like one from our bird's eye perspective that would absolutely not make sense in a real-world setting. Bindra goes on to say how he's been banned from the circus and gives up the TM for Rock Tomb. Well, that's something, I guess. And no, there are no more branches on this dialogue tree. Head up this way to find another clown who uses a Sableye who only knows Quash. Okay, you'll also find this elixir. Now, instead of going all the way up this side trail, we're going to go swimming again and head north into the mountain by river. Before doing that though, if you stop by the mansion to heal, you may be tempted to read Titania's journal for yourself. Just note that if you do, Titania will know, and you lose relationship points. She can't hear me reading it if it was in a different parallel universe I safe scummed away. It's mostly all the same as what we already heard from the tragic scene earlier, with the last page showing that Titania knew that letting Amaria go was the only way to be free. Well, no use being depressed. Let's take our new surfing power for a real test run into Celestinine Mountain. From this entrance, you'll find 2 waterfalls and stairs in the west, along with these stairs in the east up to a ladder. Climb up and encounter another sliding puzzle. It's fairly easy, and you will then climb up 80 more cave stairs to jump into this water. Head to the left and find... So not only is there waterfall, but there's also dive. This is my prime reason for using easy HMs. I beat this game without it, so yes, I had to juggle 3 water HM moves. Thank God that you can delete them for each other, so you only have to have 1 slot taken up at a time. And also thank God that Surf is so good. But still, the fact that I don't have to think about any of that makes me very happy. Continue north through the mostly barren channel, passing by another waterfall to mark for future exploration. and you'll find yourself at this shoreline that you got stuck on last episode. You'll have crossed the border between Celestinine and Ametrine Mountains. Going out to the right will put you back on Route 2 where the Crustle still sleep. While we're here, let's do a crazy puzzle solution. One I would have never done on my own without Big JRA's guide. You remember that cave we blocked with a Crustle last episode that I said you appear to need rock climb for? Well, with Surf, you can solve it now. Start by going down here to get a Rage Powder. Then follow this path back to the entrance into Ametrine Mountain, avoiding any shaking pillars that are in your way. Retrace all of your steps back to the east bank of the cascade and walk to where the sleeping Crustle in front of the cave is. Using the Rage Powder, awaken the platform Pokemon, but it won't battle. Instead, it will retreat into the cave. Follow it, and you'll find several interesting things. First, a Crussle's boulder lay discarded here, with scorch marks on it. But that's not what you want to know about. You want to know what that Megastone is. It's Aerodactylite. Oh yeah. Still no Mega Ring. Or Aerodactyl. Hidden in the rock near the small opening is an XL candy. Now, to discover who lives in this hole. Is it more Crustle? Not anymore. Now it belongs to Salandit, who will snatch a Pokesnacks from you upon emerging from the cave. Encounter it, but keep in mind, Salazzle can only be obtained involving a female Salandit. Male, shiny female! I couldn't believe it. It was like it was scripted. The first female I encountered and it rolled shiny. Catching that, the only thing left to mention is that you can keep getting Salandit from here if you have Pokesnacks. Now, leaving the cave, you might be reminded that the Crustle that lets you come this way from Route 2 is now gone. It is probably worth your time to introduce a new Crustle to a new home. Let's get back to swimming in freezing water. There was another path to take up these stairs when you first enter Celestinine Mountain by swimming Pokemon. A lot of it is mostly unnecessary to look at, as it requires dive here too. When you cross over this body of water, you'll find that this is the dividing line between Celestinine and Citrine Mountains. A couple things to mention is that you can get Shoal Salt here if you didn't have it for the Shell Bell. You can also get this Revive. To the south, a strength puzzle sits unsolvable from this angle. To the north, you'll be told by your item finder that there is a hidden item behind the 2 mining rocks. However, this is not going to be worth the sweat. The item is a heart scale. Lame. Climbing up to another plateau to the west, you'll find an exit, which takes you out to the trail where Bindra and the other clown were. Now you see what else was up this way. Go back into Citrine and go up the stairs and ladder. In this room, you'll see these rock climb footholds to the left. You may recognize this as the other section of Citrine that we already explored. Just a single HM move separates us from freedom. The rest of this cavern cannot be plundered without waterfall. So instead, return all the way to the crossroads here by Route 2's entrance to Ametrine. It's time to proceed forth into uncharted waters. You'll find an easy ice puzzle, and then you will already reunite with Kane, Aya, and Hardy. Their trek towards Ametrine City has already ended, as this massive, unnaturally geometric ice pyramid completely blocks all progress. Hardy attempts to shatter the ice with his Gigalith, but it doesn't even scratch it. He then insists, like he has a couple other times already, that we head up to Calcinon to enlist the aid of other leaders. Hardy assures Aya this will be a quick, easy, and not at all regrettable hike with no unforeseen consequences whatsoever. The 3 leave as we walk by the Pyramid of Ice. The rest of the mountain on this side is completely unassailable to us. No dive and no waterfall means we can only go out this exit onto... We've now reached Route 3, which brings forth an air of apprehension, thanks in no small part to Glitch X City's remix of Ruby and Sapphire's Route 113, the area known for the ash falling from the volcano nearby. There is a subtext that I personally derive from this point on with the music tracks like this. There is always a forward-propelling force in this music that commands, keep going. You must. I am compelled. Walking east about 20 steps, you'll meet up with your friends again. Hardy was right, the way into Calcinon City was right around the corner. And it's gone! A beam came from, as Hardy noticed, Labradora City, and disintegrated the stairs up. Aya quickly points out that someone is coming towards us from the sky. Fortunately, it is not foe, but friend. Saphira. She explains that Meteor is attacking from Labradora City. When Hardy mentions the Mr. Mime Pulse, Saphira states that isn't the problem anymore. She then suddenly dashes off at a flash of light and deflects another laser that erupted from Labradora. The laser was shot by another pulse, one using a Clawitzer. Now, Meteor is shelling Calcinon with it, and the only thing that is keeping it from being reduced to rubble is Saphira on her Dragonite, deflecting every shot. However, as she admits, this causes collateral damage, like these stairs. She apologizes, but says she must return to the defense of the city, and advises we use the eastern entrance. Aya groans about the never-ending hike, but Hardy assures that Route 3 isn't that bad with all of the bridges that the two cities up here have built on it. Bridges like the one that gets nuked from orbit as Hardy and Kane were crossing it. So, Hardy, want to cut your losses here? Hardy remains positive even after almost dying again, and says that we can still make it to the east side of Calcinon. He asks Aya and I to sit close to each other and get through the route however we can, as Hardy and Kane continue trekking east. Aya at first acts like she can't believe she's stuck with us, but apologizes and says she will try not to bother us. If I could tell you anything, Aya, I'd tell you to go home right now. But I can't. Sorry. Head into the nearby cave now, item finding and mining as you wish on your way through. As you explore the cave, it becomes obvious that there's activity down here. A lot of strange machinery sits around, and a doorway leads to a cluttered room. Inside the box in this room is another metal coat. Great, one for Steelix and Scissor now. You'll head back outside periodically, and right here, you'll want to head left to pick up this Max Elixir. Ooh boy, that's a rare one. As you venture to the right, another laser blast rings out, and you come upon another collapsed bridge. Aya's mood dampens further when she realizes that Kane and Hardy probably used the bridge already, so now we'll be farther behind. Descend by crushed bridge to obtain a nice little XL candy and all the rubble, then head into another cave. When you ascend a few stairs, Aya will then spot someone, and get a bad feeling. Bad feeling is right. Team Meteor is here underneath Calcinon. Thus you will enter battle against the two grunts, but once again, you're outfitted with a gym leader's entire extra team beside you, and Aya even leads each fight with her Dragalge. You won't have a lot of trouble bowling over these grunts, after which Aya will completely heal your team as always. After they're done, walk up the stairs and pry open this barrel for a max potion. You'll then walk into another door, and the track shifts to a much darker one. There's only one thing to do here in this place called the LCCC, which is to hit this console to open a wall. Continuing on linearly will lead you to two more grunts, again easily dispatched, which is repeated once more in the next room. You can get outside again, walking east by a rock climb wall, and then a bridge. As soon as we walk on it though, another flash of light comes from Labradora. Fortunately, our bridge isn't falling down. However, there's nothing worse than knowing that disaster approaches, and being powerless to stop it. Another pair of high-ranked grunts stands on our way out here, wondering if we're after the pulse. How did Hardy and Kane not see these two? Push them down, only for the knight to make a mention that only one pulse is powered here. Press on into the next cave to find an unexpected item on the ground. A blast powder. Huh, I guess Break doesn't have a monopoly on this stuff. Climbing towards the back of this cave will lead once more into the LCCC, where we find a PC and healing station before the foreboding way on. Stepping into the next room, the air thick with trepidation, Aya wonders aloud why we seem so far off course. You see, Aya, I have the innate ability to find the worst trouble. I'm sorry you had to come with me. When we walk forward, we discover the heart of the operation under Calcinon, manned by the duo of admins we're well familiar with, Eclipse and Aster. Aster tells the grunt nearby to call for backup, but is fully willing to try his luck against us again. Eclipse, however, drops several hints that things are not what they seem. A nonchalant Eclipse and gung-ho Aster engage us. They send out the sun and moon to my Meowstic and Aya's Dragalge. Meowstic starts by faking out the Soul Rock, though I'm expecting both of their side wants to maul Dragalge with Psychic. But apparently first, Lunatone wants to put up a light screen. Ugh, that's shitty. Especially since Dragalge pounds the Soul Rock with a Hydro Pump that would have surely killed. But 2 can play at that game. I use Light Screen next. But 3 can play at that game, as Soul Rock then shows what move it wanted to use first. Reflect. I hope I don't have to use physical attacks for a while, as Dragalge both dodges a Blizzard that did only a smidge to Meowstic, and sharpshoots the Sun with a second Hydro Pump. Aster next sends out Golurk, as I then decide to try just focusing down his side to reduce this to a 2-on-1. Shadow Ball is dampened against the Ghost type, but so is their Blizzard. Golurk's Rock Slide adds to the damage, but Dragalge avoids flinching to cut away another piece of Golurk with her third straight Hydro Pump hit. Meowstic manages to finish off the Golurk before it acts again, while another Blizzard wears Meowstic down a bit further. Dragalge, however, is getting some insane luck in this fight, avoiding the snowflakes falling out of the sky again. It answers with Dragon Pulse to put a crater on the moon. Aster continues into his next Pokemon, Crocodile. Meowstic's time is at an end, it seems, but not before an Intimidate triggers a competitive, which allows her to rend the Soul Rock almost to death. It was quite surprising that she went before Crook, but said Crook then bulldozes the factory field, pushing aside Meowstic, bringing Dragalge to a drop of HP and shorting out the field. Lunatone's Blizzard is a sure kill. If it had hit! Instead, Dragalge capitalizes on not only her third Blizzard miss, but her fourth straight Hydro Pump hit to send the moon below the horizon. What the fuck? Good thing Aya didn't get this kind of luck against me. Now, onto the matter of the Crocodile. With a light screen still hampering me, I decide to send Vanillux, hoping he has the raw power to take it out. Eclipse, though, got to wait for my move, and summons a Milotic. God, that's about 1 billion HP. I was pretty sure Vanillux wouldn't outspeed Crook, and unfortunately I was right. What he did do was dodge that Rock Slide. Dragalge is finally out of energy, as Milotic then does barely a thing with her own Blizzard. I then unleash my Blizzard, but that light screen is a serious drag. Crook would have easily died without it. Next turn, trying to repeat Blizzard, both of the meteors go first and try causing some serious disruption. The Croc hitting us both with a Rock Slide, and Milotic landing a Confuse Ray on Vanillux. So he has to dodge both a flinch and a Confusion self-hit. And he does so. You already know why. Crocodile is dusted, but sadly Toxapex did fail to act due to the Rock Slide flinch. Aster then puts in Passimian, which devastates Vanillux as he tried to line up a Freeze Dry on Milotic. He did so with a Brick Break, both killing Vanillux and shattering our waning light screen now. Meanwhile, Toxapex took a Confuse Ray, and now Aya's luck is reversing hard, as she pokes herself on her own spikes. Fortunately, their light screen has also finally faded. In that case, I send out Sigilif for Passimian. I know Sigilif is probably faster, which she is, and melts the quarterback's brains. But Sigilif was wide open to Milotic's next Blizzard, which though doesn't kill, does freeze. This time around, Toxapex does all of the avoiding of bad luck and finally lobs a Sludge Bomb at Milotic, who gets poisoned. That's so good, and additionally, their Reflect faded. But then finally, Aster sends his ace, Midnight Lycanroc. You may be noticing a problem with the UI I've had for major fights on screen right about now. There's no more room. There are more than 6 opponents in this doubles battle. Full disclosure, this isn't actually the first battle that did this. 2 of the Meteor double fights we did on the way here also had greater than 6. Well, that's fine. Aya and I have a full team each, so it won't be a problem. Yet. But I guess it's time to upgrade the UI to handle this. There. Now let's get back to it. Sigilif is now in total shambles, never mind the freeze. Lycanroc outspeeds him to take him out with my least favorite move, Lycanroc showing off his Life Orb. Fucking everyone bought all the good items before I got here. After taking another Frigid Winter from Milotic, Toxapex muscles through confusion to scald the Lycanroc for a good hit. Midnight is almost dead, and I have his favorite counter since day one here, Greninja. Fortunately, Water Shuriken doesn't screw me over when a 2-hit would have, and Greninja vanquishes the horrible knight. The two other water types then trade Scalds, which burns the Toxapex to basically take away the last chance you would have had to act. Aster's side is finally depleted, as Greninja's extrasensory finally makes the fish flop. Toxapex falls over from all the different damage it's taken. Midday then comes out from Eclipse, as Greninja Ninja Stars it for 2/3. We then get Rock Slided again, reducing Greninja to nearly 0 as Venusaur's Power Whip finishes the second Lycanroc. Out next, and who knows how many are left, ignore that UI, is Oranguru. Greninja's Water Shuriken once again makes me think it's time to teach it Surf. Venusaur very unfortuitously misses a Sleep Powder, while Oranguru uses Nature Power Discharge to electrocute Greninja out, blinking the field's lights for a moment. To the Psychic and Normal Ape, I send Heracross, who thunderously puts an end to it with a Megahorn. Finally, Eclipse sends out a Vileplume. Pretty gross matchup, but Megahorn is neutral here. Though neutral means shit if you get the 15% miss chance. Once again, the two other Pokemon, who are both the same types, trade the same move, Sludge Bomb. Heracross aims her horn correctly the second time and finishes off the Vileplume. Finally, after felling 10 Pokemon in one battle, Eclipse and Aster are defeated. Even though Aya had 3 left, I was starting to get worried in this fight. You may have not noticed the earlier grunt duos who went beyond 6, but here, you will be unable to ignore that you have knocked out way more than 6 Pokemon and they're still coming. Even these double battles with a partner are not safe, and a bad feeling may dawn on you. How much worse is this going to get? We'll relish our victory for the moment, as I show you my victory from my previous file against the Meteor Admin duo. One thing to notice right away is that my team's levels were lower than today by a good 3 to 4 levels. I'm not sure why, considering I definitely had EXP all on. Vanillux and Meowstic were with us then as they are now, along with some of the usual suspects you've seen, Blastoise, Luxray, Dusclops, and Camerupt. You get the partner double battle heal after this fight, so I have no idea how it went for me. I want to say it wasn't so bad, but who knows anymore. When the fight is over, Eclipse surrenders, as Aster remains defiant for Team Meteor. But Eclipse goes further. She isn't just giving up, she's quitting Meteor. She demonstrates how serious she takes this decision when she powers down the Pulse Clawitzer. When Aya meekly tells her that we were just lost, Eclipse shrugs and says it was what she wants anyway. Aster is dumbfounded, demanding to know why Eclipse is turning on Meteor, and she says it plainly. All Meteor is doing is hurting people, and she hates the idea of a new world without the people she cares about. Chief among them, for Eclipse, is her father, who lives in the city above us that was being shelled by the Clawitzer. Eclipse then turns to us and apologizes for what has happened, saying that Meteor wasn't originally planning things like this. Under Solaris, wait, why are you saying it like it's past tense? Meteor's goal was to drive people out of Reborn to cleanse the region. But then, people like Lynn and Sirius began to... The very man that Eclipse began to speak of attacks her with his Chandelure, speaking both Eclipse's own line and then Lynn's. Moments later, Eclipse falls to the ground, her soul burned away. Aster panickedly yells at Sirius why he would do this, which should be obvious, but it is Aster. But then, Sirius's murderous intent moves to me. This is when Aya makes a split-second decision to push me out of the creature's way, thereby falling directly into Sirius's hands and completely changing the course of her life. Sirius knows that Kane and Hardy are heading to Calcinon, and decides instead not to kill her, but to take her hostage. Sirius commands Aster to retreat and destroy their exit on the way, but Aster says he is taking Eclipse with him. Sirius doesn't care about this, and everyone in this room besides me vacates. An explosion collapses the hallway where Sirius came from, and we are left alone. The only thing to do is to go to the southwest corridor and pick up the TM for flame charge, then leave out the right hallway. The music for Route 3 returns. I am compelled, as always, by despair. Head out of the cave back to the route proper. Walk up a few stairs and pick up this blast powder. The Route 3 music doesn't last long, as only a little bit further you'll then come upon Route 4. Wow, 2 new routes in one episode? Yeah, and spoilers, this is the last numbered route in the game. The music goes from something that evokes uncertainty in your never-ending climb to one that beckons you to think positively and believe. It is Diamond and Pearl's Eterna Forest, remixed by Glitch City. The tug of war in your mind will rage on. Given to despair, or rise above? You'll be forced to rise regardless as you ascend the dense and snowy land ahead, a final climb towards Calcinon. After defeating a hiker and moving northeast, you'll be likely to spot an extinguished campfire. Approach it, pick up the nearby heart scale, then check the cold fire pits. Apparently there's still something in the cinders, but you can't pull it out. Perhaps a spark would draw it out. The solution is to use something that has a move to light the nearby forest on fire in battle, like my Camerupt. Doing this while nearby the campfire will result in the item popping out. The item is a fire memory. Continue north along the route. Defeating trainers you find, though be warned, they can easily wear you down, and the closest healing station is all the way back in the Meteor Base in the LCCC. At the north end, at an east-west junction, you'll find these jumping square rocks with a waterfall. Nothing to do here oddly, it seems primed for a side quest. To the right, past this trainer against whom Heracross missed Megahorn twice in a row, casual 2% chance, you'll find a dead end with only a rock climb wall. A rock climb wall to hell. I'm not ready. Finally, this leaves us with the only remaining direction, west, into this checkpoint. As soon as you walk inside, you'll find Hardy waiting for you. Oh boy. He asks you where Aya is. Well... And I didn't even mention your sister. Hardy exited the guard shack to the left, and so do we, finally entering Calcinon City. Welcome to the other place in which I felt endlessly trapped, and you'll soon see why. The city has 2 main streets. First on the northern street, you'll find a mart, and then a boy watching TV in his house. We hijack his TV to watch the news. Hey, I just saved your city, I want a little respect. Gardevoir's latest news is now a bit outdated, as she talks about the siege of Calcinon by the Labrador Clawitzer. She says that due to the barrier, there is, or was, no way to counterattack. The Pokemon relates how Saphira, as we saw, was protecting the city all on her own. Next channel, Gossip speaks with Adrian. Gardevoir starts by saying that, for those outside the city, Adrian has been spearheading renovation projects which has gotten residents to take notice. Adrian says their entire motivation for doing so was simply because of the subjective whiplash they had from leaving a clean and bright Reborn to the abhorrent one of today. They say the only right thing to do is to spend all of their energy to restore the city into a form like they believe the city and region deserve. Next up, DJ Arclight gives us another rundown of our upcoming gym leader battle, once again unbeknownst to him. The gym leader he's going over is, maybe unexpectedly, Charlotte. The fire gym leader takes over her own mother's type and gym, and will start her battle on superheated field. However, that's not the end goal for her. Her battle will invariably spark the field into burning field, and will make the inferno even worse with the use of her ace we've known about for a while, Ninetales. The Fire Fox's ability Drought will add sun to the field, strengthening fire attacks by another 50% on top of everything the field effect is already doing. Anything that isn't fire type, and maybe even fire types too, are going to be burned to a crisp in this fight. Thanks for your TV, kid. The next house over has a guy who is forcing his Elekid to act as his house's generator after Meteor knocked out his actual generator. The Elekid is none too happy about this, not that the man cares. Buddy, maybe try leveling up to level 30? I'm sure an Electabuzz can work a lot better than Elekid. Anyway, committing that to memory, we head down the strip some more to find the Calcinon Gym. That ranks quite high on the importance scale, so we're skipping it for now. Across the street is a doorway facing north. Inside, you'll find a blocked-off Megastone. Don't even think about this one. You're coming back a long time later. Now head to the last house on the northern side and find this gentleman. He's friendly when you speak to him, as he mentions how he's waiting for his daughter to return. His daughter, apparently, is trying to find a cure for his illness. Though he is less optimistic than her, he is grateful for her care, as she went off to join a group to find a cure. This sounds a lot like Eclipse, he says, which is his daughter. Oh. You see, well, he doesn't take the news of her death at all, let alone well. He completely changes his tune towards us and rationalizes we must have never actually seen her, then demands that we leave. We also can't go into what was Eclipse's room to the right. This was rough, to say the least. Let's get out of here and go back to the east side of the city to start walking up the southern end. In the first open building, we find yet another person trying to use a baby Pokemon for a task that would be cake for its level 30 evolution, Magby. The teacher here says that the heater fainted when it was attacked by the Clawitzer, so Magby is trying to pick up the slack. Good luck, little guy. Hang in there till I find a Magmarizer, hint hint. Next is the Pokemon Center, which has a man angrily walking in place about the fact that he was on the cusp of defeating Charlotte when she popped Ultra Potions and stole the fight back. I know, man, it's brutal, totally unfair. He says we should use the no items password. Don't get carried away. You don't know what's coming next. But on the other side is a girl who has something I do want, an in-game trade. Specifically, she wants a Quillfish and will trade a Munchlax for it. Give her the spiky fish in exchange for one Mr. Bumbles. Upon doing so, you find out her real, more financial reason for getting rid of a Munchlax. But Mr. Bumbles here is statted like a beast. The fattest lax you can hope for. Too bad about that special defense, but if we want to use him, he'll be unbreakable. Walking more west, we find the northern end of the first guard shack we almost got to enter. Going outside to Route 2 and walking on the very right side, we can see a stairway. I wonder how we'll access that, he said, knowing the answer already. By the way, I don't know when I'll bring this up otherwise, but if you were able to go down these stairs, or if you went all the way back through the Meteor Basin caves from earlier, you'd find this ladder that drops back down to Route 2 right near the circus. Cool shortcut, but its usefulness is kinda limited right now. Back in Calcinon, across the street from that checkpoint, is this building, and when you enter, you'll be met by a large number of your friends. Anna starts up by saying she told everyone I was right outside, glowing through the wall again, no doubt. Kane here then asks us where Aya is. Oh boy, here we go again. But this time, Kane, unlike Hardy, is not worried, as Anna would think. Kane is more concerned about Meteor capturing her and having to listen to her endless complaints. Solid relationship right there. Shelly then resumes a question she was asking before I arrived, which was about Heather. Kane then tells her the same thing that he told us at Van Hanen, about Heather being taken care of by a guy named the same name as Cal's brother? She says if it's the same person that Cal repeatedly spoke nothing but bad things about, then she must go find Heather. When Kane tells her the way to Ametrine is blocked, he realizes that the entire city, Heather included, would be starving. Noel, though, diffuses that worry by saying Heather would just fly away. Even so, Shelly and Kane want to see if she's still up there, as Anna begins murmuring about the giant iceberg in the way. Something about not remembering hearing about it. She inquires what we tried and what it seems like we could do to surmount it, and after learning that braking, climbing, or going around are out, she comes to the last logical conclusion. Or Noel does, or Nomos does, as Anna then insists. The solution is to use Dive to get under it. Where is Dive? In Anna's hands, and now ours. Holy shit, 2 HMs in one episode. We're eating well tonight. But of course, dive is another field move we need a new badge to use. Fortunately, that badge is Charlotte's for some reason. Hey, the game has to progress somehow. We'll have to go speak to Charlotte, but on the way, we'll finally lay eyes on the barrier. That accursed wall. I'll speak more about it in the future, but just be satisfied when I say that this wall garnered a notorious reputation in my mind. Many other early players of Reborn probably feel similarly. In front of the wall on my side are Saphira and Hardy. Saphira greets us again like a Stormwind guard from World of Warcraft.
Well met.
She tells us that the attacks from meteors stopped. You have a dead girl and a captured girl to thank for that. And I guess me too. She stands vigilant though, ready to defend at a moment's notice. She says that the reason that the barrier remains is that Chalcedon's power grid powered the Clawitzer, while Labrador's must be powering the Mr. Mime. Until the Clawitzer is destroyed, she won't be moving from this spot. Hardy, meanwhile, is not nearly as calm and stoic. He yells at the barrier for Meteor to relinquish Aya. Instead, someone comes down the stairs from Labrador's side that should make your blood boil. It did to me at least. It's fucking Fern! Okay, fuck you Ferns will be dispensed at the beginning and end of Fern scenes. Starting now. Fuck you, Fern! His reason for being over there? And therefore being in Team Meteor now? He only sides with winners. Looks like he kept Ace's offer in mind since all the way back in episode 1, asshole. He drools that, unlike the ungrateful people being killed by Meteor, the meteors he saved from the Tanzan base actually needed him. So then Fern ate a full bowl of Meteor's bullshit, and now will help Meteor execute their plan so that he will take his rightful place at the top. Do you hear yourself? He then taunts Hardy about having Aya, as Hardy swears he will be punching in every part of Fern's face. I wanted to throw him off a bridge. He then says he has to get back to his important work, unlike what we're doing. And fuck you, Fern. Okay, blood pressure coming back down. The last place to check out is the Chalcedon Gym, which is no doubt where Charlotte is. When we go inside though, we find the third Belrose sister here too, and it seems that something terrible has happened to Laura. When the two sisters notice that I'm here, Laura quickly excuses herself. Charlotte goes on to say that she thinks Laura is overreacting. She only got fired from her position in the Elite Four. Yeah. Apparently, Ame just called her up and said she's out without a reason. Not only that, but she's already been replaced. By the time the words, "by who," leave your mouth, you may realize who's behind all of this. Ame being the one to tell her, though, starts to get you worried about that pesky corruption that's going around. Charlotte says she has to follow Laura for now, and exits. With the Fire Gym Leader not ready for battle, we go back to speak with her eldest sister again. When we do, though, we are audience then to Sirius, who hauls Aya down the Labrador stairs to the barrier. Sirius makes it clear and simple. He will kill Aya if I don't hand over the ruby ring. Saphira jumps in that we will not accept his terms, but Hardy yells angrily at her for dismissing Aya's life so easily. Hardy tells us strongly to give Meteor the ring, but Saphira coldly stays her course and says do not surrender it. Hardy reiterates the plainness of their terms that they will kill her if we don't give them the ring, but Saphira rebuts that they will kill her if we did. Hardy is hysterical about this, and tries to make Saphira see it his way by asking if she would say this if that were a sister of hers instead of Aya over there. She says it would make no difference. Hardy's disbelief grows, while Charlotte shows up to hear this from Saphira. Charlotte questions Saphira if she is speaking the truth about this, to which the eldest Belrose says nothing. The youngest sister then approaches me, and asks me the same thing. Would I let her die to hold on to the ring? You might say no as, a regular human being, but with these two girls and relationship points, then you probably know that saying yes is actually what Charlotte wants. When you do so, she acts utterly insulted, and swipes the ring from our hands, calling out to Meteor to meet her at the LCCC to obtain the ring, and runs off. It gets stolen no matter what, by the way. Now, Hardy is suddenly against giving up the ring for some reason. As Sirius grunts he will send someone down to retrieve it, dragging Aya away. When Hardy confronts Saphira about her coldness, She says that, though Hardy cannot relate, she has learned that she must have absolute faith in her sisters. After all their hardship, that faith is the only thing they can rely on. Hardy calls this out on the fact that Charlotte just made off with the ring right in front of them, but Saphira removes the veil from Hardy's eyes. Charlotte took off with the ring, and now Meteor believes we no longer have it. Because of that, threatening Aya to us is useless, so they won't waste their bargaining chip. Saphira tells us to find out for ourselves by heading to the east gate back towards the LCCC, which, in case you were wondering what that acronym meant, is the Labradora Chalcedon Control Center. As soon as you reach the guardhouse, you find the pink-haired fire leader waiting for you. Despite giving a cruel answer, Charlotte assures you gave the right one. She goes on to say that we must never bow down to Meteor's ultimatums, even if it meant they'd kill everyone in Labradora. She rationalizes that as long as Meteor doesn't attain their goals, then we are duty-bound to do whatever it takes to keep it that way. She likens them to animals, and that validating their behavior only encourages it. The way she talks, it's like she's an anime antagonist. She then states she will actually keep the ring for now, a gambit to keep Meteor guessing on where it went. Everyone telling me they're keeping the important keys that a terrorist organization is gunning for and using nightmarish augmented Pokemon to obtain. People really are crazy in this region. She then changes the subject to our need to dive underwater, and says, despite how dumb it is that a water machine requires the fire badge, that she will gladly allow us to battle her for it. Before she leaves, though, she says that she never did find Laura. I'm sure she'll be fine, she says. Everything is under control. Return towards the west end of the city to go to the gym, but on the way, you may pass by the infernal barrier again and see someone standing across from Saphira. Sigmund. Saphira makes it clear that the barrier is all that is keeping Sigmund alive at this moment, as the crooked doctor mocks her galvanism against him. He once again threatens to use the law against Saphira to capture her sister, but she warns him to leave now. Sigmund remains stubbornly across from Saphira, whose death glare will be unceasing. We'll leave those two mortal enemies alone, and head once again into Chalcedon Gym, where the video call pedestal flashes. Speak to Ame now about Charlotte's first ever gym battle in this gym. Oh, by the way, she's going to use doubles. That's a big sigh. Ame warns that Charlotte will probably use Heat Wave and Eruption often, since they'll hit both targets as well as ignite Superheated Field. Beautiful. She says either literally make it rain, or literally fight fire with fire. First thing though, we have a puzzle to solve. Step forward to see a series of floor tiles, some colored orange and some light brown. As soon as you step on one of the brown tiles, it changes color to pink. Walking north to advance, you'll find there are no stairs. If you step on the orange tiles or one of the pink tiles you already traversed, then you will be thrown back to the start of the puzzle. What you have to do is find a path that steps on every brown tile exactly once, and also puts you directly in front of the northern stairs on the last step. It's kind of like Cubert, or if you've played Ruby, Sapphire, or Emerald, then it's exactly like the Water Gym. Here are some tips. First, you should plan your entire route as best as you can before making any moves. Also, look for situations like this one at the beginning, where a tile you haven't walked on yet would end up being surrounded by 3 other illegal tiles if you walked away from it. It should be obvious that if you have a tile like that, then you've lost. A lot of the time this should give you the hint to go in that direction first. Lastly, like I already mentioned, always leave the tile directly south of the stairs for last. The puzzle isn't solved until you walk up those stairs, so don't strand yourself in the middle of the tile sea at the end. Of course, you could always just watch this footage to see the solution. After you solve each of these non-image based tile puzzles, you'll be forced to fight a gym trainer, which yet again aren't that difficult. The next step of the puzzle though will seem very daunting. However, if you remember my tips, then you'll see how right off the bat, you'll want to go to the right to avoid leaving a hanging tile. After that, you'll find that doing zigzags to cover multiple columns or rows almost always puts you in the exact spot to continue to the next portion of the puzzle. Take your time, and eventually you should see how the floor breaks down into a single line to the end. Stage 3 of this puzzle turns up the heat yet again. But like before, the left tile from the beginning would create a dead end, so start towards that way. It's best to take out corners of a puzzle rather than saving them for later, since entering and exiting an area is harder to do more than once. This one is likely to take a few tries to get right, but don't fret. It's not as bad as it looks. When you conquer the puzzle and cast aside the last trainer, then your path to Charlotte is open. However, as you step forward, you'll find that more of those tiles that change color are on the floor, but none of them burn you now. Why are these here? It's actually because this is a secret puzzle, and not one you're supposed to do yet. You would have no possible way of guessing the solution on your own. It isn't changing all of the squares to the same color. It requires you to set the tiles to form an ultra-specific pattern. But if you were a filthy cheater, or someone who beat the game before, then you would already know this solution. If you did solve it while Charlotte is standing here, it actually gives you a relationship point with her. I'm going to solve it now, even though it's not what you do as a first-time player. It is very easy to mess it up, so either save as you go or be very cautious. When it's done, then the floor will look like this, and off-screen, Charlotte wonders what you just did. Turns out, a hidden room appeared behind her, but she will be blocking the way into that room. You won't be able to get the reward for that now, but a cool Easter egg nonetheless. With this, we have no further business. It's time to challenge Charlotte. When you speak with her, she tells you how her mother, who originally ran this gym, was also a fire trainer. She goes on to say how the fire that took her parents could have made Charlotte fearful of fire and forever guilty for their deaths. But instead, when she realized that there was nothing she could do after it started, she accepted it. She embraced the beauty of fire, in all its destructive, unpredictable glory. She will show you the art of the blaze, up close. Before we brave the flames, let's take a look at who is taking part in this baptism of fire. First, seeing as how near everything fire-related coming from Charlotte is special-based, I'm sticking Meowstic up front just to set up light screen. 8 turns of half special damage will immensely tilt the scales back to me. After that, Meowstic can go wild with Psychic and Shadow Ball, though I doubt there will be much of anything weak to those moves. Also taking point will be a Pokemon who's been resting since Aya's gym, Arcanine. Turns out I am going to fight fire with fire, as Arcanine now has Flash Fire as her ability, while having her same 4 moves from the Poison Gym. She's also holding a Telluric Seed, meant to go off in the first turn of Superheated Field in order to give her some defense in addition to the light screen. Essentially, Arcanine will be a constant nag on Charlotte, something she will hopefully have little to deal with. After her, I have another with Flash Fire, who should be no surprise yet again, Houndoom. As opposed to last episode against Samson, now his dark side will shine. Besides that, his own flamethrower with an activated Flash Fire will mean he can dish out a ton of damage even if it is resisted. I've never liked intentionally fighting into resistances, but we're going to give it a shot. Then, breaking from the fire with fire for just 1 moment, literally only 1, we have a type actually strong against fire, Greninja. You'd think that bringing water types galore would be the play, but I actually don't have any others set up at this moment. I may be forced to change that, but there's a good reason it's only Greninja. His only water move is still Water Shuriken, not Surf. He's not going to come out in the first turn because we want Superheated Field to ignite into Burning Field. Until then, water moves are reduced in power, so he needs to wait for the moment to strike, since Burning Field does not check water moves at all, oddly. Of course, there's the issue of her Ninetales having Drought, so water moves will get screwed over anyway. I may need to use a special trick against that if I'm against the wall, but there's another reason for Greninja to use Water Shuriken, and it ties into the reason that Charlotte starts on Superheated Field instead of going straight to Burning. Surf snuffs out Burning Field. If the fight started on that, then from my understanding the battle would turn fieldless, like it would have against Radimus or Sarah. Instead though, quenching the flames of Burning Field only puts it back to Superheated Field, where the water moves are worsened. Water needs to be precise as a needlepoint in this fight, or otherwise you're wasting a lot of potential. We jump back into the fire with Camerupt. I love this pick a lot, and he'll get better with my last pick. Obviously both Earthquake and Rock Slide are going to tear down a doubles fire team, and he resists them in return. Plus, this time around, should Camerupt suffer a crit, then his anger point will turn his suffering back on his enemies. But I mentioned why I'm excited to bring him because of my last pick. After last gym, we're going to see if Talonflame can continue its reign of terror. While Talonflame and Camerupt are on the field together, Earthquake will only hit Charlotte's Pokemon, making it far and away the better choice. Talonflame isn't a slouch himself though, not even close. Though I fully don't expect him to do the same as what happened with Samson, his first turn will let him put up a Tailwind with priority, which will launch my team's speed into the sky. He's also holding an Elemental Seed, which once again means Talonflame is waiting until the flames burst forth in earnest. Once they do, the seed will leave his wings, giving him attack and speed stages and empowering his acrobatics again. The drawback is that it also puts him into a fire spin, so his Gale Wings will quickly deactivate, but with Tailwind and a speed increase on top of that speed, I'm not worried about going second too often. Now, even though I'm feeling good about this, I'm fully aware that I could be barking up all the wrong trees on this plan. Charlotte was another gym leader who had no trouble incinerating me in the past. She isn't as bad as Samson, but the fire leader has so much potential that is ready to go kinetic. Here we go, for badge 11, through the fire and flames. To my Meowstic and Arcanine, Charlotte ignites with Typhlosion and Darmanitan. The fact that Typhlosion is here on the opening round terrifies me. So much so that I do probably a dumb thing and use Fake Out on it so it can't move first. With Arcanine, I'd rather just turn up the heat now, so I go for Heat Wave. Well, that Fake Out did make Typhlosion sit still for another turn, but then Darmanitan crashes right into Meowstic with Flare Blitz for a one-shot. There goes Light Screen, not that it would have saved her anyway. In return, I do the honors for Charlotte and light up the field. This does decent damage to both of them, while Burning Field activates Arcanine's Flash Fire for her, raising her firepower. Typhlosion and Darmanitan are both ridiculously fast, so I need some speed of my own. I hold back Talonflame for the moment and go with my priority user Greninja. Water Shuriken would take down a Darmanitan, I would hope, but Typhlosion is the bigger threat. If I could get some luck, then Heat Wave from Arcanine may be able to take out Darm. But of course, on the first Shuriken that lands, Typhlosion gobbles up a Citrus Berry. What would have been good enough luck with a 3-hit brings Typhlosion to red. The silver lining appears though when it goes next with Eruption. Fire-type Water Spout means that at that HP, Typhlosion would do very little damage to Greninja and of course nothing to Arcanine. Darmanitan, though, has Rock Slide. Of course it does. It deals a hard hit to Greninja, but in the greatest turn of events possible, Arcanine pulls a Zoro and avoids all of the falling rocks. Unscathed, she unleashes a more powerful Heat Wave and burns away both of the opposing Pokemon. What a start. But don't get a big head yet. Coming out next is another fire starter, one we're incredibly familiar with, Delphox. Next to her is a fucking Rotom. Will you ever leave me alone? The answer's no, anyway. Water Shuriken will be aimed at the damn oven Pokemon, and Heat Wave will continue putting in this crazy work. Water Shuriken remarkably goes a full 5 hits with a crit, but Rotom barely survives. Greninja's favorable typing does nothing for him against Delphox's Psyshock, flooring him, while the Rotom's singular move got to be Reflect. Great, what a nice parting gift from the home appliance. Heat Wave kills it and takes 40% off the Magician Fox. With Reflect up, Camerupt and Talonflame will both be nerfed, so I go into Houndoom. Then I go and blow it by using Foul Play on the now arriving Volcarona. Oh yeah, welcome Volcarona. I'll be glad to see you 8,000 more times. In the end though, my Foul Play was not a foul play, as Delphox got to intervene first with a Light Screen. Just beautiful. Now total coverage for her side. What is worse though, is that Volcarona sets up a Quiver Dance. Holy shit, kill it with fire. Okay, kill it with anything. Heat Wave's fire, even after both of those buffs, still does okay damage and leaves both of Charlotte's Pokemon in yellow HP. Houndoom's Flash Fire also triggers, so I figure he's better off using Charlotte's type against her, since she cannot use any fire attacks against us. You want to see a disgusting turn? Double Ultra Potion. Ugh. However, the game shows, in my favor for a change, why healing items may not be as useful as you think, when Houndoom takes half of the Volcarona and Arcanine gets a massive crit on the Delphox. This brings them into a worse position than when the turn started. but my elation is quickly shattered when Volcarona goes first and nails Houndoom with a super effective hidden power that decks him. Delphox's Psyshock takes a third off of Arcanine, validating that Telluric Seed she used for the defense stage, and Heatwave blasts them again, putting Delphox on next to no HP and Volcarona on actually no HP. Reflect is unfortunately still up, but it's time for Talonflame to send our speed through the roof. He comes out to Charlotte's last remaining Pokemon, that being her ace, Ninetales. Just like Samson's, Charlotte's ace is a post-cap level, 72, creeping ever up. Drought now adds Sun to this already scorching field, meaning Arcanine's fire damage goes up another 50% while she still can't be hurt by fire. But then I discover I forgot to factor in a field effect interaction. When I go for Tailwind, the burning field gets blown out. This causes the damage for Heatwave to drop by 30%. Even worse, Ninetales immediately shoots down my bird with another super effective hidden power. Apparently Delphox wanted to go for the Talonflame too, whose flamethrower breathes on Arcanine harmlessly. What was also harmless though, was the Heatwave miss on the nearly dead Delphox, and extremely bad timing. I shouldn't have been too surprised, Heatwave hasn't missed once yet for me, but that was an irritating time for it to happen. It still hits the Ninetales and puts us back on Burning Field, but now it's down to Camerupt and Arcanine, the former of whom will have to use Rock Slide since his optimal partner is fainted. This turn, Tailwind takes effect, allowing Arcanine to easily go first. The heat washes over Delphox this time and takes her out, burning another third off of Ninetales. The Fox unleashes his hidden power again on Arcanine, once again hitting weakness and bringing her to red. Camerupt, though, lands his Rock Slide and Ninetales hangs on! Man, fuck Reflect! At that low of health and knowing that Charlotte can't use another item, I resort to the safe play on Arcanine to use Crunch to not miss. Ninetales hangs on! She then ends Arcanine's battle-long valiant effort with another hidden power. But with that sliver of HP, all Camerupt has to do is not miss the Rock Slide. I felt it coming, 1,000 miles away. That Rock Slide miss was foretold in the stars. I could have used Lava Plume with impunity all this time because it wouldn't have hurt Arcanine, but no. I'm staring at a Ninetales who I'm certain has been using Hidden Power Water and is going to 4 times my camel and win this fight with 1 pixel of HP left. It was just now that I've noticed I forgot to turn on my reset counter. Well, let me just lose this fight and I'll turn it on. Or not. Amazing. The hidden power type must have been rock, not water. Ninetales' final heat wave pays me back with a miss, the world righting itself. I can't believe what that fight was. Literally fighting fire with fire is what won this battle for me. I know the real unsung hero of this fight was Flashfire, because there seemed to be nothing that Charlotte could do to remove my dug-in Arcanine, whose power was just screaming higher and higher. If it weren't for that, it was easy to see what would have happened. 2 of my teammates went down in single hits, and Greninja could barely stand the heat. Charlotte's difficulty throughout my 4 runs is as unpredictable as her type, as I've seen her massacre me, and I've seen her crumple without any issue. Another first try win on a gym leader, and this time I'm not redoing it. It was close enough as it was. Let's go back now to playthrough 3, with this screenshot that I named Charlotte. Hella fuck Charlotte. You may notice a slightly strange Pokemon on this team. Yeah, why in the fuck was Vanillix on my team here? And the better question is, how could it be the last dessert standing? The single solitary reason it was there, if I remember right, is to cut off Ninetales' Drought Sun. But that's so thin of a reason to use Vanillix. Ice moves are cut in half on either Burning or Superheated field. As for the rest of my team, you'll see that Houndoom, Meowstic, and Camerupt are Charlotte veterans, with Blastoise once again showing up as an obvious pick. Lastly, I had one more water type, Toxapex. I wanted something bulky that could menace Charlotte's team, which I hope meant I tried using Toxic Spikes, but this team's final HPs are horrible. If I had to guess, I had a Snow Cone's chance in hell to win this fight, which was apparently all I needed. I think things through a lot better now, it seems. for defeating the youngest of the 3 Bellroses, who admits that maybe she can't run from all of her guilt. She awards us the Cinder Badge, and this time our level cap does increase to 75. Of course, as we had established earlier, we are also able to dive underwater now. Finally, she gives you a TM with one of the biggest staple moves for fire types, Flamethrower. Oh yeah. She then tells you to get on your way to save Ametrine and make Meteor pretty for her. As she says, our goal is now to enter Ametrine Mountain through the use of dive. But why is the way to Ametrine blocked in the first place? Turns out, we may find brand new treachery ahead of us, and also behind us.